Hi, my name is Megan Marshall. This is a picture of me at my desk in my music classroom. I will share more of my presentation with you in a video after you see a few pictures. This is my presentation summarizing a podcast that I found that relates to the first week's content of our Paving the Way class. I found the link to this podcast on the SEL Facebook page for music teachers. The podcast I discovered is called Music Teacher Coffee Talk with Tanya and Carrie. They are two Kodai-inspired elementary music teachers who share music room ideas, songs, activities, and lessons. The main focus of this podcast for this particular day was to hear a discussion that centered around the first two chapters of Music Education and Social Emotional Learning, The Heart of Teaching Music by Scott Edgar. The hosts also indicated that Chapter 2 had a contributing author, Jacqueline Kelly McHale. The podcast lasted about an hour. I felt that the hosts, the two teachers, communicated with ease and clearly have their show well designed. Their show aired only a few weeks ago in June. Before they got onto the main topic of the book, the hosts made a plug for the presentations they were each going to do at the virtual Rocky Mountain ORF organization workshop. But once they made their plugs, then they got into the main content to focus on the two chapters of Scott Edgar's book. Since they only focused on two chapters, I thought there was a sufficient time to highlight the main ideas that each host wanted to discuss. Hello again. Now I'm going to summarize the two chapters that Carrie and Tanya discussed on their show. Chapter 1, they reviewed the main components of SEL, Social Emotional Learning. Then they took a little bit of time to clarify that SEL is more than a typical PBIS, Positive Behavioral Instructional Support, and made sure that the educators listening were aware of the differences between the two. Then the hosts focused their conversation for a little while around some of the discussion questions at the end of Chapter 1. I would have to say that the biggest takeaway for me from that chapter and the questions was the discussion about thinking strategically on how to keep a high value on allowing music to connect to students to one another and deepen their self-awareness through COVID-friendly projects, activities, and assignments. Due to COVID restrictions, individual or virtual group projects might be a heavy means of engaging this season, depending on the age level and technology available to the students and depending how much remote learning occurs. When Tanya and Carrie moved on to Chapter 2, it was enjoyable to listen to. However, if you are not a Kodai expert, then you are slightly left out of the conversation a little bit. But regardless, there was some great takeaway from the Chapter 2 discussion. In listening to their discussion on Chapter 2, the main focus was the socialization of the students and the teacher together. The biggest takeaway for me from that chapter discussion was the reminder that even with physical distancing, to keep the priority of connecting with the students somehow in your teaching. And if remote learning happens again, offer opportunities for students to participate in things like Google Meet sessions, even if not all of them can attend. Just as they did in Chapter 1, the hosts also used some of the discussion questions at the end of Chapter 2. I thought these particular questions were very strong and helped end their discussion in a very powerful way. So I'm listing them here, and then I will share my thoughts on those questions momentarily. After listening to the host discuss those questions, I would say that I have two prominent thoughts as I prepare to enter this school year. Number one, I need to always be reassessing how my engagement with the students, as well as my music selections, affect the students' SEL experience in a positive way and not in a negative way. And number two, I will need to very carefully prepare how to be conscious of SEL in light of the fact that music classrooms will likely take a very different shape and structure this year than a normal teaching year. Thank you.